Hi YouTube.
Power Silva 101 here. Forever and a day since I've been on, but I've been hearing talks that a lot of people are losing interest in UFC 183. That would be the UFC card headlined by former welterweight contender Nick Diaz and perennial middleweight contender now Nick Diaz in his long-awaited triumphant return against the greatest of all time in Anderson Silva. Now this is a fan favorite, a fight that fans have wanted, a super fight, a bona fide super fight that fans have wanted forever, that I'm now hearing people are losing interest in. Now, Diaz had recently gotten not one but two DUIs. Now, maybe that stirred some controversy and turned some fans off. Typically, there's no such thing as bad publicity, but apparently there is when you're Nick Diaz. Now, I'm not quite grasping this concept because people knew what Nick Diaz was to begin with. I recently read an article from whom I typically like to read from in Bleacher Report. Bleacher Report wrote prior to this that this is a bona fide super fight. This is what they wanted to see, and Nick gets a DUI. All of a sudden, they don't want to see it anymore because it's just going to be a knockout. Nick's go forward at any cost is going to cost him dearly when he's knocked out on the canvas. And what's next for Diaz after he KOs Nick Diaz? And that bothers me because you never know what's going to happen in that cage. Fuck the odds. Look at TJ Dillashaw. He's champ of the world. I mean, no one saw him beating Barral, let alone knocking him out. That no one saw that shit coming. I know I didn't. And on the night that UFC 183 is scheduled to happen, Anderson Silva will be in his early 40s. Nick Diaz will be in his early 30s. That's a decade. And in MMA time, that is forever. You do have a very small window of time. Anderson Silva is coming off of two devastating and controversial losses to the same man, Chris Weidman. They were both title fights. Nick Diaz is also coming off of two losses, not devastating losses, but they're both title fights as well, 5-round decision losses. Anderson lost in devastating fashion both times, and both times were because his chin didn't hold up. Well, the second time was because his leg couldn't hold up. And I also did read a story titled Ghost, and it was because he couldn't throw kicks, because every time he went to throw the kick, he saw or felt something inside of him and that didn't allow him to throw the kick. He just felt like it was going to break. Will that, play a factor in the fight? Who knows? Regardless, this is Anderson Silva, the greatest of all time. I don't even know how long he was champion for. A long fucking time. Nick Diaz, who knows what this guy can do? Nick Diaz has pulled off some of the greatest fights. I mean, he's put on some of the greatest fights I've ever seen. Pulled off upsets before. Fuck, he was an underdog against BJ Penn, and gave that guy the beating of a lifetime. I think he gave him worse of a beating than Edgar, even though Edgar put him away. I think he gave him worse of a beating than Edgar, even though Penn's one of my heroes. I think he beat him down worse than Edgar did. I want to see Nick come back. More than anybody. Why he's choosing to fight at middleweight, it is beyond me. I think he should be at welterweight. I do agree with most people there, but UFC 183, I mean, Diaz versus Silva still remains to this day as exciting to me as it was when it got signed. These two are the most violent men when it comes to fighting in the octagon. There's not going to be anyone laying on top of anybody. There's not going to be a boring fight going on here. This is going to be an exciting main event. These two are going to be looking for the finish. These two have nothing but technique and respect for one another. It's going to be interesting to see if they do talking, because they both do some wild and crazy shit in there. This has no probability of being a boring fight. This is going to be an exciting fight. It's going to be interesting to see if Anderson's age plays a factor. It's going to be interesting to see if Nick's ring rust plays a factor, because let's face it, Nick hasn't been in there in a long time, but the dude is in shape. He could go 25 rounds if he needed to. Let's see if Anderson can keep up. And hey, he's a kicker. Nick's been against kickers before, but not kickers like this. But he's hesitant to pull that trigger. On that night, maybe not. We'll see. It's interesting. I don't know how people, especially, I mean, these people are supposed to be professional sports writers. In MMA, anything can happen. They're predicting a second round knockout of Nick Diaz. I think that's just insane. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I'll be back for much more. I had to take a break. Back in school now. I'm much more busy, and but I will be more than glad to answer these. This is just crazy. I had to hop on and say something and ask you guys what you think. Let me know in the comment section. Are you still interested in seeing the main event of UFC 183 if Nick can make it into the cage? 5 rounds, middleweight contest between Diaz and Silva. Thank you very much.